Your fear isn't a warning. It's a frequency. Transmute one note, and the whole symphony of your life retunes itself. Listen closely, because this is the moment the noise in your head meets the signal underneath it. You've been told to fight fear, to outrun it, to drown it in louder thoughts. Yet fear kept returning like an echo in a canyon. Why? Because echoes belong to walls, and you've been building them without knowing tonight. We don't shout over the echo. We change the canyon. We retune the chamber that amplifies your life. There are two currents within you, one loud, reactive, drenched in memory, and another quiet, steady, timeless, like still water under a moonlit sky. The loud current calls itself you. It points to your past and says, "This is all you are." The quiet current doesn't argue. It doesn't perform. It simply is unmoved, clear, precise. When your days feel heavy, it isn't fate. It is a frequency you've been carrying, a note sustained so long you mistook it for silence. Think of your life as music, not poetry, not metaphor. Music, every thought, an instrument, every emotion, a note, every decision, a chord progression guiding the next scene. When fear surges, it isn't a divine stop sign. It's a low note looking for harmony. Change one note, just one, and watch the entire score shift keys. What seemed like a closed door begins to sound different, and suddenly it opens on the downbeat you once called impossible. Ancient wisdom spoke of this without spectacle. No drama, no superstition, only precision. The inner world sets the scale. The outer world plays along. Raise the inner scale, and what arrives can't help but arrive tuned. Not by force, not by pretending, but by the law that melody follows its master. You've tasted fragments of this, a single calm decision, and the room softened, one sincere word, and a tension dissolved. A quiet certainty in your chest, and the right message appeared at the right moment. These were not coincidences. They were chords resolving. They were proof that when the inner conductor steps to the podium, the orchestra of fate stops improvising chaos and starts following time. So hear me, clearly, gently, fully. You are not the panic that visits. You are the space it visits in. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it without breaking. And when the sky remembers its height, even thunder learns manners. Stay with me, breathe in the idea, not as an exercise, but as understanding. Fear is a frequency, not your identity. Transmute one note and watch the scene change, because from this moment forward, we are composing on purpose. No noise worship, no chase, only alignment with what is steady, what is clear, what is true. The baton is in your hand now, quiet, weightless, undeniable, on my signal. We enter the hall behind your heartbeat, where the two currents meet, and there, without struggle, without spectacle, the key will change. There is a reason the noise feels so convincing. It wears your memories like a mask. It storms the stage shouting, "I am you," and because it knows your lines, you believe it. But listen, beneath the actor is an audience that never leaves, an abiding witness, quiet, steady, unchanged. One current performs, the other one is the script of yesterday, the other is the screen it plays upon. When the performing current gets loud, it paints the world in urgent colors, scarcity, comparison. What ifs that multiply like shadows at dusk? It can be brilliant, passionate, even useful. But unled, it loops, it turns caution into paralysis, planning into panic, strength into self-attack. Notice the pattern. The note descends, then drags everything with it. The witnessing current is different. No costume, no applause, no need to be right. It doesn't wrestle with the storm. It simply does not become it. From there, clarity isn't an achievement. It's a natural light. Decisions feel quieter, cleaner, almost obvious. Not because the world shrank, but because the inner hallway stopped echoing. Think of it like this. The performing current is the instrument, tuned by experience. The witnessing current is the tune. When you mistake the instrument for the fork, the day wobbles, up at a compliment, down at a headline, tossed by a glance. When you remember the fork, even a shaken string returns to pitch. Another picture, horse and rider. The horse is powerful, responsive, full of life. The rider is direction, proportion, timing. Without a rider, power circles. Without a horse, vision doesn't move together. Momentum turns into meaning. Fear is simply the horse hearing thunder. Guidance is the rider reminding it of the path. And here is the quiet shock. What you called me was often just momentum. Habits thinking themselves into tomorrow. The true I is the one that can notice momentum without obeying it. The moment that noticing happens, a door appears. No struggle, no spectacle, just a clean turn of the handle. So when the voice says, "This is who you are," let the witness answer without anger, "This is what I am hearing." When the mood declares, "Everything is falling apart," let the witness reply, "Something inside is falling loud." That phrasing matters because it keeps identity where it belongs with the steady, not the storm. Hold this single orientation like a golden thread through the narrative ahead. The instrument is allowed to wobble. The tuning fork remains true. Align to the fork, and even the wobble becomes music. There is a reason the noise feels so convincing. It wears your memories like a mask. It storms the stage shouting, "I am you," and because it knows your lines, you believe it. But listen, beneath the actor is an audience that never leaves, an abiding witness, quiet, steady, unchanged. One current performs, the other one is the script of yesterday, the other is the screen it plays upon. When the performing current gets loud, it paints the world in urgent colors, scarcity, comparison. What ifs that multiply like shadows at dusk? It can be brilliant, passionate, even useful. But unled, it loops, it turns caution into paralysis, planning into panic, strength into self-attack. Notice the pattern. The note descends, then drags everything with it. The witnessing current is different. No costume, no applause, no need to be right. It doesn't wrestle with the storm. It simply does not become it. From there, clarity isn't an achievement. It's a natural light. Decisions feel quieter, cleaner, almost obvious. Not because the world shrank, but because the inner hallway stopped echoing. Think of it like this. The performing current is the instrument, tuned by experience. The witnessing current is the tune. When you mistake the instrument for the fork, the day wobbles, up at a compliment, down at a headline, tossed by a glance. When you remember the fork, even a shaken string returns to pitch. Another picture horse and rider. The horse is powerful, responsive, full of life. The rider is direction, proportion, timing. Without a rider, power circles. Without a horse, vision doesn't move together. Momentum turns into meaning. Fear is simply the horse hearing thunder. Guidance is the rider reminding it of the path. And here is the quiet shock. What you called me was often just momentum. Habits thinking themselves into tomorrow. The true I is the one that can notice momentum without obeying it. The moment that noticing happens, a door appears. No struggle, no spectacle, just a clean turn of the handle. So when the voice says, "This is who you are," let the witness answer without anger, "This is what I am hearing." When the mood declares, "Everything is falling apart," let the witness reply, "Something inside is falling loud." That phrasing matters because it keeps identity where it belongs, with the steady, not the storm. Hold this single orientation like a golden thread through the narrative ahead. The instrument is allowed to wobble. The tuning fork remains true. Align to the fork, and even the wobble becomes music. There's a hinge in every moment, so small you miss it when the room gets loud. Before a word, before a reaction, before the old story grabs the wheel, there's a flicker of clear space. That flicker is where the music is decided. Not by struggle, not by spectacle, but by which center is allowed to speak for you. Fear rushes first, because fear is fast. It carries proof, exhibits, headlines, memories that feel like witnesses. It argues for limitation with confidence. Yet even at full volume, its claim is borrowed. It needs your agreement to become your echo. Without your agreement, it remains what it truly is: a low note looking for a leader. Leadership in this inner kingdom is not noise. It is poise. It is the steady current that doesn't need to win the debate, because the debate dissolves in its presence. When that current stands up, outcomes that hid in the corner step forward. Not because the world changed instantly, but because your reader did. The reader of meaning, the giver of names. Every scene you meet asks one silent question: who is narrating me? If the narrator is the loud current, the day inherits old captions. If the narrator is the steady current, the same scene receives different ink, proportion, patience, possibility. The event is the same. The authorship is different. Authorship decides the gravity. This is why two people can touch the same hour and walk away with opposite weather. The hour did not choose. The center did. The loud center multiplies noise and calls it evidence. The steady center multiplies clarity and calls it guidance. Neither is pretending. Each is broadcasting. The world replies to the broadcaster. Notice how quickly the body believes the sentence you let lead. One phrase and the shoulders lift. Another and the room seems narrower. The body isn't lying to you. It's translating the narrator's tone into sensation. Treat those sensations not as prison bars, but as subtitles. Information about who is holding the pen. Change the pen, and the subtitles change. There is a dignity that arrives when you stop negotiating with echoes. You do not need to defeat them. You do not need to prove them wrong. You simply refrain from hiring them as your voice. The echo can rattle the walls. The foundation does not tremble. The sky can be full of weather. The horizon still exists. Call this dignity by its proper name, sovereignty. Not defiance, not hardness. Sovereignty. A softness that does not surrender its center. A calm that does not audition for approval. A clarity that does not collect permission slips to be clear. When sovereignty is present, even fear lowers its eyes, even doubt remembers its seat. So when the moment hinges again, and it will, let the steady current narrate. Not with theatrics, not with slogans, but with simple authority. I will not rename myself after a passing cloud. From that sentence, the note rises a half step, the scene loosens. And what looked immovable remembers. It is only a chord awaiting resolution. There is a law that does not flatter anyone. It does not bargain. It does not threaten. It does not forget. It simply reflects. As within, so without. As above, so below. The scene on the ground takes its orders from the sky inside you. Not because the world is fragile, but because meaning is a master craftsperson, and form obeys its blueprint. Think of reality like a mirror you cannot fog. It shows what stands before it with perfect loyalty. Shout at the reflection and nothing changes. Alter the expression and everything does. This is not a punishment. It is mercy. It means you are not at the mercy of scenes. Scenes are at the change the center, and the corridor of outcomes rearranges itself with quiet precision. Identity writes the blueprint. Not slogans, not wishes, identity. The sentence you accept about yourself between words becomes the architect that lays out the walls of the day. If the inner line says, I am built of scarcity, the world arranges boxes and locked doors. If the inner line says, I am built of sufficiency, doors appear where walls once insisted they were solid. The same bricks, a different design. This is why certain turning points feel like thunder without sound. Nothing visible explodes. Everything visible reorders. A single truer sentence slips into the foundation and the building you live in. Choices, timing, encounters, shifts angle. New light enters rooms that existed all along, but were facing the wrong way. Do not mistake calm for weakness here. The still center is not passive. It commands without noise. It does not wrestle the hour. It names the hour correctly. Once named, the hour cooperates. The mirror has no politics. It has fidelity. Give it a divided face, and it returns a divided path. Give it a unified face, and paths converge that previous. Fear tries to edit the blueprint after it's been printed. It argues with corridors, complains about ceilings, calls the staircase unfair. But fear arrived after the ink dried. Its protests feel factual only because they are familiar. The steady center does something quieter and greater. It revises the blueprint itself, and the building, faithful as ever, begins to follow the new lines. Consider the way small harmonies announce larger ones. A sincere word that lands and softens a room. A decision made in clarity that causes unrelated events to fall into place. These are not accidents. They are signatures of alignment. The below signing the covenant drawn by the above. The mirror reporting back acknowledged. Two people can stand before the same door. One sees a barrier, the other sees timing. One sees proof of unworthiness, the other sees preparation. The door did not choose, the blueprint decided the interpretation, and the interpretation steered the day. In this way, life is not a courtroom handing down verdicts. It is a studio that records the voice you speak from and plays it back as circumstance. So let this settle without drama. The outer scene is not your judge. It is your translation. It translates the tone you carry into events that rhyme with it. When the tone rises, the rhyme scheme changes. When the tone steadies, the plot steadies. Nothing supernatural. Only a faithful mirror, returning a faithful picture. Hold this law like a quiet compass behind your thoughts. The world cannot refuse a blueprint once it is truly drawn. It may take angles and hallways to complete the turn, but turns complete. The mirror will not invent a face, it will show the one you bring. And when what you bring is whole, even old shadows forget their lines. Power without guidance runs in circles. Guidance without power goes nowhere. Inside you both exist, the strength that surges and the clarity that steers. When they argue, the day feels like dragging a sky with bare hands. When they agree, distance collapses, and what seemed far arrives as if it was waiting just. The horse in you is not the enemy. It is life itself, pulse, passion, momentum. 1,000 instincts ready to move. It startles at thunder, remembers old roads, and tries to protect by choosing familiar turns. It can carry destinies across deserts. If it trusts the one who holds the reins, the rider in you is not a tyrant. It is the quiet measure, the keeper of horizon and proportion. It sees the bend before the dust, keeps time without shouting, and knows the difference between a cliff and a cloud. When the rider forgets itself, the horse becomes the map. When the rider remembers, the map obeys the meaning, not the. Notice how fear behaves in this pair. It gallops first, fast, convincing, full of proof, stitched from yesterday. It says, "Turn back," and points to tracks that look like prophecy. Yet prophecy is only yesterday repeating when no one changes the reader. The rider's presence changes the reader, not by force, by stance, not by denial, by naming. Leadership here is tender. It does not insult the horse for being a horse. It does not shame the heart for beating loud. It simply refuses to hand over the horizon to an echo. It speaks in sentences that do not tremble. We move when truth moves. We pause when clarity pauses. We do not rename ourselves after weather. And the horse, hearing steadiness, remembers its courage. This is the alchemy that few are taught. The loud energy was never meant to be silenced. It was meant to be conducted. The memories were never meant to be judges. They were meant to be libraries. The surges were never meant to be verdicts. They were meant to be fuel. When that order returns, fuel beneath, guidance above, the same strength that once scattered you begins to gather your path. You can feel the difference without effort. The old rush felt like shrinking, like rooms losing air. The true surge feels like space widening inside your chest. Decisions become clean lines, not collisions. The scene may still be complex, but the center is not. And when the center is not, complexity stops impersonating fate. Call it by its right name, alignment. Not a trick, not a costume. A return to roles that always belong to the rider directs. Fear may thunder, but thunder is only sound. It cannot redraw the horizon, and when horizon holds, the road chooses you back. There's a sentence you carry that speaks before your mouth does. It speaks to rooms, to chances, to timing. It does not shout, it states. And reality, precise as ever, takes notes. Not because the world is trying to test you, but because the world is built to translate identity into event. The day listens to the tone beneath your name. Want is a visitor. You can want peace while silently identifying with chaos. And chaos will find you politely on schedule. You can want abundance while quietly declaring scarcity in every glance. And scarcity will RSVP first. But when the inner line changes from I want to I am aligned, scenes that once resisted begin to cooperate. The script doesn't bow to the loudest wish. It bows to the deepest assumption. Assumptions are architects. They draft corridors in your future and lay rails under your next choice. Most are inherited, picked up in crowded rooms, copied from voices that were themselves repeating older echoes. This is why some days felt pre-written. You weren't cursed. You were quoting. The moment a truer line is chosen, quotation ends and authorship begins. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. It will dress in caution, pose as logic, show you charts from yesterday, and call them fate. Yet its contract is simple: agree with me, and I will keep you the same. The steady center offers a different contract. Remember me, and even what frightened you must change its tone in my presence. The terms are not dramatic, they are exact. Contract with fear, inherit its key. Contract with clarity, inherit its scale. You may notice how people respond when your inner line shifts. The same words land differently. Doors that stayed shut begin to loosen. Not because you performed harder, but because your presence carried a new briefing. Presence is not posture, it is the quiet decision you've already made about who is speaking for you. When that decision is whole, conversations stop trying to fix you and start to meet you. There is a still strength that does not require armor. It does not demand. It does not beg. It simply stands where it stands and names things as they are. In that naming, the room recalibrates. Distractions remember their place. Noise forgets its audience. And what matters moves forward without pushing, because the path recognizes its traveler. Call this the silent contract of reality. The outer scene cannot long contradict a stable inner truth. It may delay. It may take angles. It may test the doorways for a moment. But truth held steadily becomes gravity. Eventually, what does not match falls away, and what does match finds a way in. That is not arrogance, that is order. So let this settle like ink drying on parchment. Identity is the broadcast. Life is when the message is divided. The day echoes division. When the message is unified, even the unexpected begins to cooperate. Not because you forced a miracle, but because you stopped arguing with the one in you that never needed to raise its voice. You have walked through the music beneath your life, the two currents, the rider and the horse, the mirror that never lies, the law that tunes form to signal. And now the moment stands in front of you like an open door, not a door of noise, but a door of knowing. Fear was never your identity. It was a passing note asking for a wiser key. The loud current was never your name. It was momentum looking for meaning. The steady current has waited patiently, not to impress you, but to remind you who speaks for you when you are true. Hear this with your whole heart. You are not here to perform for uncertainty. You are here to stand where clarity stands and let life arrange itself around that truth. When you stop borrowing your name from echoes, The day stops borrowing its weather from yesterday. When the inner sentence becomes whole, the world, so faithful, replies in kind. So let a new sentence take its place inside you, simple and unshakable. I am the steady signal. I carry the higher note, not a slogan, not a shout, just a quiet fact you no longer argue with. From that fact, doors that once delayed begin to open with dignity, conversations soften, timing finds you. The same road looks different because you no longer hand your horizon to passing clouds. If this spoke to you, if something in your chest felt the key change, leave this line below so it anchors in you and encourages someone who needs it. I carry the higher note. Add it in your words if you wish, but let the essence remain. Then share this message with a friend who keeps mistaking their storm for their sky. Your single act of sharing, if you want to walk further with me on this path of alignment. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so this signal doesn't get lost in the noise. Your presence here matters. Your support helps this voice reach those who are ready to remember their own. Before you go, there is a companion video waiting. The next movement in this symphony, where we go deeper into identity as the broadcast and how subtle shifts in meaning rewrite outcomes with grace. Click it and meet me there. Until then, hold your center, keep the note, and let your life retune itself around the truth you finally chose.